Alright, so we are on to the next 5 chapters of The Return of the King. So I'll talk about those here real quickly. Go through, I don't actually have a ton of thoughts that I wrote down about these 5 chapters, but so I'll just do it like I normally do, but it'll probably be a bit shorter. So anyways, the next 5 chapters, chapters 5 through 10 of book 5, which is the first half of The Return of the King, is chapter 6 is the Battle of the Pelenor Fields. Chapter 7, the Pyre of Denethor. Chapter 8, the Houses of Healing. Chapter 9, the Last Debate. And Chapter 10, the Black Gate Opens. So, the Battle of Pelenor Fields, this is... It begins right where the Siege of Gondor ended and where the Ride of the Rohirrim ended. So those 2 chapters take place concurrently, and they end at exactly the same time with Theoden blowing the horn and riding off, and Siege of Gondor, that's where Ride of the Rohirrim ends, and then Siege of Gondor ends with the horn of Rohan being blown, or the horn blast being heard in Gondor, in Minas Tirith, at the gate, and the Witch King leaving the gate at that moment. So, Battle of Pelenor Fields is a massive. You get a lot about the Rohirrim and their charge and Theoden's death. You get the fight between Éowyn and the Witch King. And you find out, that's a cool fight, you find out exactly why that fight works, and I do get to it I think I wrote it down in my notes, but if not, I'll briefly mention it here so that it at least gets mentioned in case I forget about it. But the way that the fulfillment of the prophecy works, it's not just because it's not word for word exactly what the prophecy thinks, or what the prophecy says. It is, but not exactly the way that you would interpret it. And that's what makes it such a good prophecy, and such a well done prophecy. So anyways, that's Battle of Pelenor Fields. We also get the arrival of, is that in that chapter? It's gotta be in that chapter. So it's not in the Pyre of Denethor. Denethor, I say it. I mix it back and forth, swapping them, doesn't matter. Anyway, so the Battle of Pelenor Fields also include, yeah, it does. It also includes Aragorn and the Rangers, and then the rest of the people that he's picked up along the way as they're traveling back to, or up the river towards Gondor, towards Minas Tirith. It involves their arrival at the battlefield. It involves their joining that fight, and basically that turning the tide and helping them to win the battle. So we get a meeting between, there's a really cool line, I don't think I noted it, but there's a really cool line in, let me see if I actually have it written down, I think. Let me see if I can find it. No, I don't have it. That's alright. But there's a brief mention, and I'll see if I can find it in the book here, about Aragorn and Éomer and what's the other guy's name? Imrahil. And here it is. So Aragorn and Éomer and Imrahil rode back towards the gate of the city, and they were now weary beyond joy or sorrow. These 3 were unscathed, for such was their fortune and the skill and might of their arms, and few indeed had dared to abide them or to look on their faces in the hour of their wrath. People talk about Lord of the Rings having plot armor, or the characters in Lord of the Rings having plot armor, and how none of them ever die or get hurt or anything. Tolkien wrote that in there. He acknowledged that, and he wrote that in there. For such was their fortune. It was literally part of the world happened. I mean, yeah, it also involved their skill, but part of it was their fortune, and it was done intentionally and purposefully, and Tolkien knew that he was doing that. So anyways, that's just a random note that I wanted to make note of as I continue on here. Oh, and then we will get back into, let's see, what's the next chapter? So that's Battle of Pelenor Fields. The next chapter is the Pyre of Denethor. This is Denethor finds Faramir. Faramir comes in, and he's dead, basically, wounded, seems to be burning up of a fever, and is just soon to die. And Denethor believes that. He tries to release Pippin from his bond of servitude as a Knight of Gondor, and Pippin says, no, I don't want to, but I will take some leave so that I can go find Gandalf. But anyways, they go to the... Where is it that they go? Rathdynan is the place. It's a tomb. It's a tomb for the kings of Gondor. And there's a bunch of... Denethor has taken Faramir there in order for them to burn together, and for one not to outlive the other, and because Denethor has just given up all hope completely. So then he tries to, the chapter, you don't see what goes on a bunch in that house, or in Rathdynan, because it's following Pippin, and Pippin runs off to find Gandalf. He returns. Where exactly does this chapter start? Yeah, so it starts with Pippin already having run off to find, and he's at the front gate of the city where Gandalf and the Witch King had just had a confrontation, and so he gets Gandalf, and they go back up there, try to stop this senseless burning of Faramir and Denethor, and they get there. Baragond is inside trying to keep the servants from bringing fire to Denethor to destroy himself, and Gandalf intercedes at that point, and they are able to save Faramir's life. But Denethor lights himself on fire and lays down holding the Palantir that he's had. And there's another line that I do wish would have been included, but basically it talks about how if anybody were to ever look in that Palantir again, unless they were very, very strong-willed, as in like stronger will than Denethor, all they would see were a pair of aged, withered hands holding onto the stone. That's all they would see, unless they were able to have strong enough will to wrench it away from that view. And it's a very disturbing, very creepy piece of lore there, but it's very cool as well. So that's Pyre of Denethor, whatever. We've got the Houses of Healing is the next chapter, and this is a fun chapter, actually. I really like this chapter because it brings out the humor of the characters in so many places, where Aragorn is just like fed up with the Master Healer. It's a very good chapter for the humor, how good Tolkien was at writing humor, but also at the type of humor that the different characters have. Here's one. So he's talking to Merry. Aragorn is talking to Merry. He says, "Master Meriadoc," said Aragorn, "if you think that I have passed through the mountains and the realm of Gondor with fire and sword to bring herbs to a careless soldier who throws away his gear, you are mistaken. If your pack has not been found, then you must send for the herb master of this house, and he will tell you that he did not know that the herb you desire had any virtues, but that is called Westman's weed by the vulgar, and Galenas by the noble, and other names in other tongues more learned, and after adding a few half-forgotten rhymes that he does not understand, he will regretfully inform you that there is none in the house, and he will leave you to reflect on the history of tongues. And so now must I, for I have not slept in such a bed as this since I rode from Dunharrow, nor eaten since the dark before the dawn." And it's just the previous interaction that Aragorn has had with Aerith, and then with the lore master, the herb master. That's the word. He must send for the herb master. So he's previously had a discussion with Aerith where he's already said the same exact type of thing. He's like, "I know, I want this. I don't care what you think about it. I want it." And then he says the same thing to the herb master, basically, and it's just the way he interacts with them, the humor in this scene. There's several of them throughout the books, and you find them, the more you read the books, the more you pick up on them. it's a great sequence. But there's lots of stuff in the Houses of Healing. You get moments of understanding of how the lore works. You get a better understanding. Well, if you didn't already believe that Aragorn was the king, you know now that he is, because of the hands of the king are the hands of the healer. And the way that all of this works, the way that everything in this story works and ties together, it's wonderful. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people would not enjoy that chapter because it's slower and there's no action going on, but the action that is there is not fighting battles and massive epic scale. It is, let's take a step back, let's breathe, let's heal, let's reflect, and then we'll see what we do next. Which then, coincidentally, leads into the next chapter, which is the last debate. And in the last debate, it's another chapter where the captains of the host of Gondor are meeting and talking about what they're going to do, and basically what they decide to do is we're going to take 7,000 men and we're going to go knock on the front gate of Mordor and see what happens. Try and draw Sauron's attention and see if we can maybe hopefully give Frodo and Sam a bit more time to make it to the end of their destination. And that's really all that happens. They decide that they're going to do that, and you realize how desperate of a measure this is going to be, because 7,000 men really isn't that many. And then the last chapter of this part is the Black Gate opens, and that is they ride to the Black Gate. They ride up the road to the crossroads. They set the head of the fallen king back on its body and wipe away, scrub away the stains and the paintings and the graffiti that the orcs have done, and they continue on. They continue moving along, every once in a while calling out their challenge and saying that the Lord Elisar has come, or the King Elisar has come. I forget exactly what let me see. It will tell me here if I find it. Say not, the lords of Gondor, say the King Elisar, for that is true, even though he has not yet sat upon the throne, and it will give the enemy more thought, if the heralds use that name. And thereafter thrice a day the heralds proclaimed the coming of the King Elisar, but none answered the challenge. And it's just their journey to the Black Gate. They arrive at the Black Gate, they call out, let the Lord of the Black Lands come forth. Let's see. Along the way, of course, Aragorn gives the men in his retinue, the 7,000 men, the opportunity to stay back, to guard this place or to guard that place, or to go back and with no shame coming upon them. They're more absolutely welcome to do this. They don't have to come to the Black Gate with them. But by the time he gets to the Black Gate, he's down from his 7,000 men to, I don't know exactly how many are left. I think it's like 4,000 or 5,000 or something like that that's left. So he's cut a significant chunk out of his army. That's a very small army to begin with by the time he arrives at the Black Gate. But then they're at the Black Gate and come forth, let the Lord of the Black Land come forth. Justice shall be done upon him, for wrongfully he has made war upon Gondor and wrested its lands. Therefore the King of Gondor demands that he should atone for his evils and depart then forever. Come forth. And this is then the mouth of Sauron comes out, and they talk with the mouth of Sauron. The mouth of Sauron brings out the mithril coat, the Lothlorien cloak, the sword of the Barrow-downs that Sam had, and I think it's just those three things. Yeah, dwarven mail, elven cloth, human-made swords, and then a spy from the northern lands of the Shire. And I'll talk more about that in a second here. But anyways, Mouth of Sauron divines based on the fact that Pippin reacts to seeing those objects. He figures out, oh, yep, you knew this. I already suspected, but now you have confirmed it. And then he goes and Gandalf takes the things, and the battle begins. Aragorn sends them back packing back to the Black Gate, and before Mouth of Sauron even is through the Black Gate, the trap is sprung, and the Haradrim that I believe it's the Haradrim. It's either the Haradrim or the Easterlings that are hiding, and I don't remember which off the top of my head. But one of them comes around the hills that are the holes in the hills, caves in the hills just open up, and all the orcs come swarming out. And now the battle is set in array, and they are fighting. The last thing you hear are someone yelling. Pippin hears someone yelling, "The eagles are coming! The eagles are coming!" For one moment more, Pippin's thought hovered. "Bilbo?" it said. But no, that came in his tale long, long ago. This is my tale, and it is ended now. Goodbye. And his thought fled far away, and his eyes saw no more. And that's the end of that book. And you end thinking, oh, Pippin's dead. Huh. And you don't know what's going to happen. You're thinking, yep, the eagles really aren't coming, because that's part of Bilbo's story, and it's just a memory that Pippin was having as he was dying, because it's the same sort of situation as Bilbo was in. And that's the end of book 5 of the Return of the King, the first half of Return of the King. So now we get into my thoughts on these 5 chapters, and they'll go pretty fast because I don't have a lot of them. Basically, let's see, we'll get to this. So the first one is, the Witch King swaps his horse for a winged steed of some sort, a fell beast as it's described later, but it's seemingly different and older than that of the other Nazgul. Possibly not, but the way it's described, and I don't think I can find this rapidly, but maybe I can. The great shadow descended like a falling cloud, and behold, it was a winged creature, if bird, then greater than all other birds, and it was naked, and neither quill nor feather did it bear, and its vast pinions were as webs of hide between horned fingers, and it stank. A creature of an older world maybe it was, whose kind, lingering in forgotten mountains, cold beneath the moon, outstayed their day, and in hideous eyrie bred this last untimely brood, apt to evil. And the Dark Lord took it and nursed it with fell meats, until it grew beyond the measure of all other things that fly, and he gave it to his servant to be his steed. So the way, because it says, and he gave it to his servant to be his steed, specifically, that's singular, which means that it, quite possibly, he's the only one that has this exact type of fell beast. Maybe the other Nazgul do as well, because it does also mention that and in hideous eyrie bred this last untimely brood. A brood usually isn't a single. That's usually not a term used for a singular term, I guess. It's usually a plural. And so possibly the other Nazgul also have them. We know one winged steed of some sort was shot down by Legolas when they were traveling down the... Why can't I think of the name of the river? The river Anduin. That's the name of the river. While they're traveling down the river, we know that that Legolas shoots at least one down. We also have seen most of the other Nazgul riding them at some point. So why he has one here, I don't know, or if this one is actually different is the question that I don't know. It seems like it might be, though. Then we get to my next note, which is fulfillment of prophecies. No man could kill the Witch King, but not that they couldn't, but that they wouldn't. A prophecy misunderstood. Aragorn is given the title of Elfstone by the people of Gondor because he wears a green jewel, the Elfstone, but he's king now. Apparently I didn't check what I was writing because I can't understand it. It says, but he's king now. But he's king, know that he would be named Elisar or the Elfstone. I was trying to say something along the lines of the elves knew that he would be named the Elfstone as king, and so that's the name that he's been given, King Elisar. We've heard that title long before now, but then when he gets into Minas Tirith, the people of Minas Tirith are calling him Elisar because he wears a green Elfstone. Or they're calling him the Elfstone because he wears a green stone. And these are just the 2 prophecies that really come to the forefront in this chapter. The first one being the Witch King slain by... He believes that he cannot be killed because the prophecy says that no man can kill him. But yeah, I believe it's no man will kill him, which is different than can. No man will kill him because I think it's no man may kill me, actually, is the exact wording, and I should find that because that's kind of important. This is taking longer than I was expecting. Yeah, we're going way long now, but that's all right. Let me still find this. Hinder me, thou fool. No living man may hinder me. Where's the prophecy that actually says? I don't know. I think there's somewhere that it says exactly what it is, but basically the idea that no man could kill him because that's what the prophecy said, and he believed implicitly the prophecy, and yeah, that's true, no man could kill him, but not because they couldn't, but because it was going to be a woman that was going to kill him. And it's not that it's a... Of course, he also misinterpreted it to be no human can kill me. So the mixture between the two. But also, there's another line where because Mary stabs the Witch King in the back of his leg with his Sword of the Baradown, which was created to fight during the wars between the men and between the Kingdom of the North and Angmar, which was the Witch King's land. He's called the Witch King of Angmar for a reason. And because of that connection there, that sword was able to break the magical barrier kind of thing that was keeping him together in some ways, again allowing for Éowyn to stab him and do the finishing blow. But it doesn't necessarily mean that she couldn't have done it anyways. There's just lots of things that all came together right then to have that prophecy be fulfilled. Anyway, and then the Aragorn prophecy, which I really don't need to explain more. We get a description of the mouth of Sauron's horse, and I've read so much, I might as well just read another portion of this chapter here, of this book here, if I can find it. Okay, where are they at? Let the Lord of the Black Land come forth. Justice shall be done upon him. He rode out now, mounted upon a black horse, if horse it was, for it was huge and hideous, and its face was a frightful mask, more like a skull than a living head, and in the sockets of its eyes and in its nostrils there burned a flame. It's just an interesting detail because it's most likely a horse of some sort, but how it's been corrupted by Sauron, we don't really know. We don't really get an answer on that. It's just a creepy, scary horse. But it's just another interesting piece of lore that's included there. Then Aragorn and the mouth of Sauron have a staring match, and the mouth of Sauron loses. So there's a moment where they're just staring into each other's eyes, and the mouth of Sauron quails. And it's a great moment. Also, the whole thing with the mouth of Sauron being a black Númenorian, meaning a Númenorian or one of Númenorian descent who turned to evil and witchcraft. It's very cool. A cool piece of lore in terms, not cool as in like this is good cool. That's like cool as in okay, that's scary and terrifying, but it's also really interesting. Anyways, and then Mouth of Sauron points it out, but the elven cloak, the dwarven mail, the human sword, and then a hobbit, those four things together symbolize the union of the free peoples in this time of war. The Mouth of Sauron doesn't specifically point it out in that way, that it's a union, but there's some conspiracy, he says. And yeah, it's partly true, but you also don't realize the fact that over the course of this book, or of the journey, Frodo, a hobbit, gets a elven cloak, a dwarven mail, and a human sword. He doesn't actually get the human sword because he has an elven sword as well, but Sam swaps his sword for Sting, and just the way that works out, it ends up being the four free peoples joining together into one in this last vestige of hope. And that's the way that, again, Tolkien's understanding of how storytelling works is just amazing. And then I mentioned glowy swords because we get glowy swords all over the place. We see Merry's sword glowing, or Pippin's sword glowing as he draws it. We see Aragorn's sword flashing as he vows never to sheath it again until this war is over. It's just lots of, all the swords in Tolkien's works glow, and you don't realize it because really the only ones that you notice specifically glowing are Glamdring, Orcrist, and Sting having a blue glow, and that's more you do see Sting with the blue glow in Lord of the Rings, but you don't see Glamdring, Orcrist. You don't see Glamdring glowing in in Lord of the Rings, except in the Hobbit book you do. But also Aragorn's sword, it shines white at one point and it shines red at one point. Why it shines two different colors? Obviously people would say, oh, it's reflecting the sunlight, or it's reflecting this or whatever. Maybe, but I think that the sword actually glows, and that's what I choose to believe because I can, and there's no reason why I shouldn't believe that. But I like the glowy swords. Glowy swords are... That's the end of my thoughts on the first half of The Return of the King, of chapters 5 through 10 of book 5 of the Lord of the Rings, and I will be back at some point with my thoughts on chapters 1 through 5 of book 6, and then 6 through 9, I believe, is all there is in this last chapter. Actually, 6 through 9 in book 6, but then there's the appendices. Appendix A and Appendix B are in the audiobook that Andy Serkis narrated, so I'll be listening to those as well. But I'll probably talk about my thoughts on them, but I'm not going to be rereading all of I won't be rereading appendices C through F or the indexes. I have done those before and I love reading those, but those are less story focused and more understanding the world, lore, I guess, or language, lots to do with the languages or the family trees, stuff like that, but less so story focused. So I won't be talking about those this time. If David Wiley or Steve Donahue wants to go through those, that's awesome. I'd love to hear their thoughts as they go, but I'm not going to this time. So those are my thoughts on the first half of The Return of the King. I will end that here. Thank you guys for watching In Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon. Stay well.